The planet Xylos was a living kaleidoscope. Its sprawling oceans, deep and mysterious, pulsed with an internal bioluminescence, casting an ethereal glow that danced across the hulls of human vessels. Below the surface, currents of liquid light swirled around colossal, crystalline coral structures, home to a dazzling array of marine life. It was a world of breathtaking beauty, a stark contrast to the barren rock and ice humanity had grown accustomed to on Cryos. On a shimmering coastal shelf, perched precariously between the vibrant ocean and the glowing landmass, sat the Nautilus Station, humanity's humble research outpost. It was a cluster of battered, functional modules, a testament to salvaged parts and relentless human jugaad. Their vessels were small, sturdy and equipped with basic sonar, rudimentary energy shields, and good old-fashioned fishing nets. They were here to study Xylos's unique ecosystem, particularly its abundant energy sources, hoping to find a cleaner, more sustainable future than the fusion generators they'd left behind. But Xylos wasn't uninhabited, and its true inhabitants weren't thrilled about their new neighbors. The Lumiflora were the undisputed masters of Xylos. These were not creatures of flesh and bone, but living, glowing plant-like beings, their forms shifting with the currents, their minds connected through intricate patterns of light. They dwelled in magnificent underwater cities, architectural wonders woven from solidified bioluminescence, pulsing with soft, internal radiance. To them, humans were the Greys, noisy, crude and utterly unwelcome intruders. "Look at their clumsy vessels," Elder Xylo, the Lumiflora leader, would resonate in a low, vibrating hum, his luminous form shifting with disdain. Spewing out their crude energy signatures, disturbing the flow of the sacred currents, they are but blights upon our perfect world. The Lumiflora viewed human technology, all steel, noise and basic electrical currents, as an affront to Xylos's natural vibrant harmony, and so the harassment began. Not with open warfare, but with calculated, irritating precision. One cycle, as research vessel the Plankton ventured too close to a Lumiflora city, its energy shields would inexplicably flicker and fail, sending it tumbling helplessly into a dangerous current. Another time, the communication arrays on the Nautilus Station would suddenly jam, filled with a cacophony of distorted, angry light patterns that rattled the human senses. Data probes, painstakingly deployed to collect environmental readings, would vanish, only to reappear later, filled with nonsensical, chaotic energy signatures. Sometimes, the Lumiflora would use their own bioluminescent marine creatures, vast schools of glowing whip-thin fish, to swarm human vessels, tapping against the hulls, in a deeply unsettling, rhythmic pattern. The humans, despite their basic tech, were nothing if not resilient. Every attack was met with resourceful jugaad, a shorted energy shield. Maya's team would quickly reroute auxiliary power through repurposed cooking units. Jammed comms. Zia, one of Maya's best engineers, would rig a jury-rigged antenna from old survey equipment and a discarded protein ration tin. Each time, the Lumiflora, observing from afar, would be left bewildered. Their elegant, high-tech disruptions were being countered by sheer, messy ingenuity. The colony's chief engineer, Maya Sharma, was the spearhead of this resilience. A brilliant but wonderfully unorthodox scientist, Maya had a knack for seeing solutions where others saw only scrap. Her workspace was a glorious mess of wires, half-disassembled alien tech, snatched from harassment incidents, and coffee mugs. Maya didn't just rely on logic. Her intuition, a gut feeling born from years of hands-on problem-solving, was her truest compass. She was tired of the Lumiflora's constant bullying, but she was also learning. Every time they disabled a human system, Maya meticulously studied the alien energy signatures left behind, beginning to understand the intricate, light-based logic of Lumiflora technology and its limitations. "All right, enough's enough," Maya declared one evening, staring at a static-filled comm screen. "They think they're so superior, messing with our comms. Time for a little human ingenuity to make a point." With a mischievous grin, Maya rallied her small team. They spent a cycle working in secret, repurposing some of the Lumiflora's own stray bioluminescent circuits, a few old floodlights, and a handful of discarded emergency flares. Their target, a small Lumiflora research vessel that frequently scouted near the Nautilus station. The next morning, as the Lumiflora vessel approached, its intricate glowing form pulsing with disdain, something utterly bizarre happened. The humans activated their countermeasure. The Lumiflora vessel's elaborate bioluminescent patterns, its very face to its people, suddenly flickered wildly. Instead of its elegant, proud display, it began to project a series of crude, highly repetitive, and utterly nonsensical light patterns, abstract swirls, rapid blinking sequences, and then, most embarrassingly, a repeating image of a human hand waving slowly. It was the visual equivalent of a loud, tuneless kazoo. The vessel looked like a malfunctioning disco ball. The Lumiflora crew inside the vessel pulsed with a frantic, agitated red. They tried desperately to restore their optical array, but the bizarre patterns persisted. They retreated in utter disarray, their shimmering form projecting sheer mortification. Later, Elder Xylo himself resonated a furious, confused hum across the Lumiflora communication network. Their advanced technology had been glitched by the crude grays. It was a temporary embarrassment, a childish prank, but it was effective. The Lumiflora were left confused and angry, their technological superiority momentarily shattered by a simple, human trick. They retaliated with a slightly harsher barrage of sonic interference, but it lacked its usual precision, as if their focus was elsewhere. They hadn't learned their lesson yet, but the seeds of doubt had been planted. The Lumiflora's initial anger over the waving hand prank soon simmered into a puzzled frustration. Their advanced bioluminescent technology, which could regulate ocean currents and cultivate vast energy-producing algal fields with pinpoint precision, had been baffled by a few human flares and repurposed circuits. It was an anomaly they couldn't logically process, an irritating mosquito bite on their otherwise pristine technological superiority. Elder Xylo had ordered increased surveillance on the Nautilus station, determined to understand the Greys' primitive magic. But a far more urgent and perplexing problem was beginning to surface in the shimmering depths of Xylos, one that made the human nuisance seem utterly trivial. It started subtly, with a slight dimming of the bioluminescent currents in certain deep-sea channels. Then, the rhythmic pulse of crystal algae blooms, a critical part of Xylos's oxygen production, began to falter. The Lumiflora's vast, intricate underwater cities, usually vibrant with controlled light, occasionally experienced strange, localized power fluctuations. The cause was soon identified: the whisperfish. These were small, agile marine creatures, their bodies covered in iridescent scales that shimmered with every shift in light. They were more than just beautiful. Whisperfish were the keystone species of Xylos's delicate ecosystem, playing a vital role in regulating the crystal algae growth, maintaining oceanic currents, and even cycling specific nutrients critical to Lumiflora's own survival. Without them, Xylos's intricate balance would rapidly unravel. The problem: the whisperfish were vanishing. And not just disappearing in number, but literally, impossibly, disappearing mid-catch. Lumiflora scientists, normally paragons of logical precision, were utterly baffled. They deployed their most advanced photon traps, nets woven from pure light energy, designed to ensnare with invisible force fields. The whisperfish would swim right into them, momentarily shimmer, and then vanish in a blink, reappearing seconds later, several meters away, utterly unharmed. They tried sonic nets, creating precise vibrational cages, but the fish simply slipped through the frequencies as if they weren't there. High-speed capture drones, designed for micromillimeter accuracy, would lung at a whisperfish, only for their sensors to register an empty space just before contact, the fish reappearing behind them with an almost mischievous flicker of its scales. "It's as if they cease to exist the moment they are threatened," resonated a frustrated Lumiflora scientist, his form pulsing with agitated blue. Elder Xylo's bioluminescent patterns, usually calm and composed, now showed streaks of deep, anxious purple. The Lumiflora's entire scientific paradigm, based on predictable energy flows and precise biological interactions, couldn't comprehend what they were seeing. The whisperfish, as Elder Xylo finally deduced through desperate, frantic research, were capable of quantum-level position shifts. It wasn't just speed, it was an instantaneous probabilistic jump. The moment any external force tried to localize them, to definitively fix their position for capture, their quantum state would collapse, and they'd reappear elsewhere, untouched. It was as if they were made of probability itself, untouchable by any conventional means. Their own advanced technology, designed for incredibly precise deterministic actions, was ironically useless against this probabilistic escape mechanism. Their focus on perfect control meant they couldn't deal with inherent uncertainty. The situation spiraled. The dimming of the currents grew more pronounced. Vast sections of crystal algae began to wither. Lumiflora citizens, dependent on these processes for their very life force, felt the subtle strain. Panic, a rare and unsettling emotion for the stoic Lumiflora, began to spread through their shimmering cities. The whisperfish population was plummeting at an alarming rate, threatening to collapse Xylos's entire delicate ecosystem. Elder Xylo knew, with cold certainty, that if they couldn't solve this, their civilization, for all its technological prowess, would face an irreversible decline. From the Nautilus station, humans observed the mounting alien distress. "Looks like our glowing neighbors are having a bad cycle," Kale grumbled, watching Lumiflora vessels darting frantically across the sonar display, failing repeatedly. "Maybe their fancy light nets aren't so smart after all," Zia chuckled. "Serves them right for messing with our data probes." But Maya Sharma didn't laugh. She watched the frantic Lumiflora activity with a different kind of intensity. She'd been studying their failed attempts, analyzing the residual energy signatures from their traps, and the odd quantum ripples left by the vanishing fish. Lumiflora tech was sophisticated, yes, but it was also rigid, fundamentally incapable of dealing with the unpredictable. Her own understanding of quantum mechanics was rudimentary, based on ancient Earth theories she'd mostly considered academic curiosities. But something clicked. Something about the way the whisperfish evaded capture, the subtle quantum signatures left behind, sparked a wild, improbable idea in her mind. She looked at her old, frayed fishing nets, then at the scattered, broken pieces of Lumiflora bioluminescent circuits they'd salvaged from the harassment incidents. Unconventional, she murmured to herself, but possibly brilliant. Her intuition, the one that saw connections where others saw only junk, was screaming. The Lumiflora were failing, because they were trying to apply perfect logic to an illogical problem. Maybe a little imperfection, a touch of randomness, a human touch, was exactly what was needed. The solution wouldn't be found in advanced precision, but in a messy, paradoxical embrace of the unquantifiable. The atmosphere in the Nautilus station had shifted. The initial amusement at the Lumiflora's frantic, failing efforts had evaporated, replaced by a quiet tension. Maya Sharma, however, was buzzing with a different kind of energy. Her workspace, already a chaotic symphony of human and salvaged alien tech, was now a maelstrom of wires, flickering lights, and intense concentration. Kale would often find her hunched over a workbench at odd hours, muttering to herself, surrounded by schematics scrawled on recycled ration wrappers. "Okay, Maya," Kale grumbled one morning, leaning against a workbench that groaned under the weight of Lumiflora components. "Spill it. You've got that look. I'm about to invent something brilliant from spare parts and a half-eaten sandwich look. What's rattling around in that brain of yours?" Maya grinned, her eyes bright. Whisperfish. And quantum entanglement. She picked up a shimmering fragment of a Lumiflora bioluminescent circuit, discarded during one of their earlier harassments. "Their tech is about absolute precision. Our tech, well, ours is about making things work, and sometimes, working means embracing the messy, the probabilistic." Her eureka moment wasn't a sudden flash of light, but a slow, intuitive build, fueled by countless hours, analyzing Lumiflora's failed traps, and the peculiar quantum ripples left by the vanishing fish. She remembered dusty old Earth textbooks on theoretical physics, talking about particles that existed in multiple states until observed, or particles linked across vast distances. Lumiflora's technology was built to observe and control, but what if, Maya mused, the key wasn't to observe more precisely, but to engage with the uncertainty? To create a temporary link that transcended space. "If whisperfish are jumping quantum states," Maya explained to a wide-eyed Zia, sketching furiously, "then any attempt to physically trap them just forces that quantum jump." It's like trying to catch a ghost by grabbing air. We need to make the ghost briefly solid. And that was the core of her audacious idea. A net that didn't physically grab, but temporarily stabilized the whisperfish's quantum state. It wouldn't hold them in place permanently, just long enough for retrieval. The theory was impossibly complex, but Maya's approach was pure human intuition and jugaad. Her design began with the Lumiflora's own discarded technology. Their bioluminescent circuits, she realized, weren't just for light. They were highly efficient conductors of subtle energy fields, capable of minute interactions at a subatomic level. Just what she needed. She carefully extracted these delicate, glowing filaments, repurposing them not as sensors or lights, but as entanglement anchors. These anchors were then interwoven into a matrix of old, frayed human fishing nets, the kind they used for basic biological samples. Primitive, Kale scoffed, watching her thread alien tech into a material that smelled faintly of brine and desperation. Looks like something my grandpa would use. Maya just winked. Exactly, that's the beauty of it. Attached to this crude-looking net were a few modified basic sensors, repurposed sonar transducers and low-frequency emitters, powered by scavenged energy cells. These were designed to emit a specific, low-level resonant frequency. The theory was that this frequency, combined with the Lumiflora circuits, would subtly interact with the whisperfish's quantum field, temporarily collapsing its probabilistic wave function and forcing it into a stable, observable state. It wouldn't harm the fish, it would just briefly make it real in their dimension. The prototype was a bewildering sight, a mesh of worn nylon netting interwoven with glowing alien tendrils, small, blinking human sensors clamped onto the threads, and a salvaged power source humming unevenly. It looked like a prop from an ancient Earth sci-fi movie, a testament to desperation and boundless imagination. It radiated a faint, almost musical hum, a strange frequency that made the hairs on Maya's arms stand up. "All right," Maya said, her voice tight with anticipation, as they loaded the contraption onto a small, autonomous drone. "First test. Fingers crossed, this doesn't just make them explode." They deployed the drone into a section of the ocean, known for whisperfish activity. On the main monitor back at the station, Zia watched the sonar. A faint shimmer, a whisperfish, zipped across the screen. Maya activated the net. The glowing threads pulsed, and the strange hum intensified. For a terrifying second, nothing happened. Then, as the whisperfish neared the net's field, it hesitated. Its characteristic quantum flicker, the rapid disappearance and reappearance, ceased. It became a singular, stable point on the sonar. The net briefly pulsed with a soft, warm light. The whisperfish, now clearly visible, swam slowly into the net, gently bumping against its threads. "We got one!" Zia shrieked, jumping up and down, completely abandoning her usual calm demeanor. Kale, for once, was speechless, his jaw hanging open as the drone retrieved the net, a small, shimmering whisperfish calmly swimming within its confines. It looked perfectly normal, no longer a phantom. From their deep-sea observation posts, the Lumiflora had, of course, been monitoring the Greys' primitive activities. Elder Xylo, observing the telemetry, saw the tiny human drone deploy its crude net. He dismissed it as another futile, clumsy attempt. But then, his own advanced sensors registered an impossible anomaly. A whisperfish, momentarily stable, contained, and then retrieved. His bioluminescent patterns flickered with sheer disbelief, then a growing, unsettling sense of confusion. How could something so primitive achieve what their most advanced quantum field manipulators could not? The audacity of these Greys was unfathomable, and now, so was their success. The seeds of humiliation were not just planted, they were actively sprouting. The whisperfish population continued its terrifying freefall. Lumiflora scientists, usually paragons of cool, luminous logic, were now frantic, their forms pulsing with agitated, chaotic light. The vital crystal algae blooms were withering at an alarming rate, choking off oxygen production in vast swathes of the ocean. Even within their magnificent underwater cities, the once vibrant bioluminescent currents flickered sporadically, plunging entire sectors into unsettling dimness. The very lifeblood of Xylos was draining away, and the Lumiflora had no answers. Their advanced technology, ironically, was their blind spot, unable to grasp the unpredictable nature of quantum reality. Elder Xylo, his normally composed form now a turbulent display of anxious greens and despairing blues, faced the greatest dilemma of his long existence. To seek help from the Greys, the crude, noisy intruders they had so diligently harassed, was an act of profound humiliation, a violation of every Lumiflora principle of self-reliance and technological superiority. But the alternative was unthinkable: the slow, silent death of their civilization. The desperate cries of his people, the dimming lights of their cities, finally outweighed his pride. A small Lumiflora delegation, led by Elder Xylo himself, emerged from the depths. Their vessel, stripped of its usual vibrant display, looked almost grim as it approached the Nautilus station. Humans watched from the observation deck, a mix of curiosity and grim satisfaction on their faces. "Well, well, well," Kale drawled, crossing his arms. "Look what the tide dragged in. Seems their fancy glow-tech couldn't handle a little quantum fish problem." His tone was laced with a lingering irritation from the past harassments. The initial meeting was, to put it mildly, awkward. Elder Xylo, his light patterns flickering with visible reluctance, projected his message directly into the Nautilus's comms. A series of complex data streams detailing the Whisperfish crisis, followed by a formal, yet deeply uncomfortable, request for assistance. "Greys," his voice resonated, carefully controlled, "your primitive device, it appears to defy the very laws of Xylosian physics. Our observations confirm its inexplicable efficacy. We require your intervention to stabilize the Whisperfish population." The word "require" hung in the air, heavy with unspoken pride. He couldn't bring himself to say, "Please." Maya stepped forward, her expression unreadable. She knew this moment was critical. "Elder Xylo," she replied, her voice clear and steady, "we understand the gravity of the situation. We can help. But this isn't just about a net. This is about working together. Our assistance comes with a condition: full cooperation and mutual respect. No more primitive Greys, no more superior Lumiflora. We operate as equals, or we don't operate at all." A ripple of agitated light passed through Elder Xylo's form. The Lumiflora did not cooperate with lesser beings. They commanded. But the dwindling glow of Xylos's ocean currents, visible even from the station's monitors, was a stark reminder of their peril. "Agreed," Elder Xylo resonated, the word forced, but undeniably present. Thus began the most improbable alliance. Lumiflora scientists, sleek and efficient, would arrive at the Nautilus station, their forms pulsating with controlled exasperation, as they navigated the humans' messy workspaces. Xayah, ever the pragmatist, found their precise, almost robotic movements hilarious. "They organized their data by the exact wavelength of light," she whispered to Maya, "and they can't figure out why Sparky keeps trying to offer them lukewarm synthcaf." Sparky, in his earnest attempts at hospitality, would repeatedly extend a mug of reconstituted coffee, only for the Lumiflora to recoil from the primitive chemical concoction. Cultural clashes were frequent, and often amusing. Lumiflora engineers, accustomed to flawless, self-repairing systems, would stare in dismay at Maya's patchwork quantum nets, held together by duct tape and hope. This is an abomination of design," one Lumiflora resonated, his form vibrating with disgust. "It works, doesn't it?" Maya shot back with a grin, holding up a shimmering Whisperfish caught moments earlier. "Sometimes, messy is beautiful." Yet amidst the friction, a profound shift began to occur. Lumiflora, through observation, started to appreciate the raw, adaptive power of human Qgayad. They witnessed Maya's intuitive leaps, her ability to combine disparate elements into entirely new, effective solutions. They saw how Kale's brute strength and unwavering loyalty compensated for lack of advanced machinery, and how Zia's lightning-fast problem-solving in a crisis was invaluable. They realized that human primitivism wasn't a flaw. It was a different kind of intelligence, one focused on adaptation and creative improvisation in the face of the unknown. Humans, in turn, gained an immense appreciation for Lumiflora's deep connection to Xylos. They learned about the intricate bioluminescent networks that sustained the planet, about the delicate balance of the currents, and the profound, almost spiritual reverence the Lumiflora held for their world's living systems. Elder Xylo, in rare moments of shared work, would explain the subtle ways the whisperfish influenced the crystal algae. Insights far beyond human understanding of macrobiology. They understood that while humans had the ingenuity to solve a specific problem, the lumiflora held the wisdom of an entire planetary ecosystem. The initial awkwardness slowly began to melt, replaced by grudging respect, and then a hesitant form of mutual admiration. The quantum net wasn't just a tool, it was a bridge. The air in the Nautilus station, and indeed throughout Lumiflora's shimmering cities, hummed with a frantic energy. The fiery pact forged by desperate necessity had blossomed into a tense but remarkably effective collaboration. Maya's quantum nets, now scaled up with Lumiflora's energy sources and deployed from modified alien vessels, were ready. The plan was audacious, a coordinated effort to round up the dwindling whisperfish population from critical ecosystem zones and transfer them to protected, artificial nurseries until the larger ocean could recover. "All right, people, Lumiflora, listen up." Maya's voice, projected across comms to both human and alien vessels, was crisp and authoritative. "We've got a narrow window before the next quantum instability cycle. Kale, you're on primary drone deployment. Zia, monitor those quantum signatures. Elder Xylo, your deep-sea cultivators are our extraction points. Let's make this work." The joint operation was a spectacle. Human vessels, their repurposed Lumiflora circuits glowing faintly, moved in synchronized patterns with sleek, bioluminescent Lumiflora craft. Kale, piloting a repurposed mining drone now fitted with Maya's quantum net deployers, maneuvered with a surprising finesse, his usual grumbles replaced by focused intensity. Zaya, surrounded by a dizzying array of flickering Lumiflora displays and human monitors, called out quantum fluctuations, guiding the nets with uncanny accuracy. Sparky, somehow, managed to perfectly capture trajectories, without tripping once. The quantum nets, deployed by the hundreds, pulsed with that strange, beautiful hum Maya had first discovered. As whisperfish, shimmering streaks of probability, entered the net's field, they would briefly solidify their chaotic quantum states, momentarily collapsing. Lumiflora cultivators, guided by Maya's team, would then gently scoop them into protected transport tanks, their forms pulsing with relief each time a fish was secured. But the ocean itself was resisting. The imbalance caused by the vanishing whisperfish had created unpredictable currents and localized energy surges that threatened to rip the nets apart. Lumiflora, used to precise control, were initially overwhelmed. It was Maya, observing the chaotic patterns, who intuitively understood. "Elder Xylo," she yelled over the comms. "The currents aren't random, they're reacting to the missing fish. We need to anticipate, not just react. Think like water, not light." Elder Xylo, for the first time, deferred entirely to Maya's human intuition. Guided by her rapid-fire commands, the Lumiflora shifted their strategy, using their energy fields not to precisely control, but to gently guide the currents, creating pathways for the nets to follow. It was a less precise, more fluid approach, a blend of their elegant technology with human adaptive thinking. It was imperfect, messy, but it worked. After what felt like an eternity, the final whisperfish was secured. Exhaustion settled over both species, but it was accompanied by a profound sense of shared accomplishment. The artificial nurseries in Lumiflora cities, now filled with the delicate, shimmering forms of the saved fish, pulsed with renewed hope. Xylus's ecosystem, still scarred, had been pulled back from the brink. Nailily. The victory ceremony that followed was unlike anything Xylus had ever seen. Elder Xylo, his form radiating a deep, resonant gold, approached Maya. "Human Maya Sharma," he boomed, his voice echoing through the combined comms network. "You and your kind have taught us a profound lesson. Our precision blinded us to the true nature of existence, your jugad, your intuition. It is a wisdom we had dismissed. From this cycle forward, your people shall no longer be greys or intruders, but interspecies innovators." He extended a glowing tendril, and Maya, after a moment's hesitation, reached out with a gloved hand. A soft, shared light pulsed between them. A bridge built between two worlds. A new era dawned on Xylos. The Nautilus station was no longer a temporary outpost. It became a permanent research hub, a joint venture between humans and Lumiflora. humans learned Lumiflora's advanced biological engineering, gaining insights into manipulating energy at the cellular level and understanding the delicate balance of complex ecosystems. Lumiflora, in turn, eagerly embraced human Jugaad principles. They set up specialized intuition labs in their cities, where their precise, logical scientists would grapple with seemingly random human problems, attempting to solve them with creative, messy solutions rather than pure calculation. Sparky even became a guest lecturer, demonstrating calculated clumsiness to perplexed but fascinated Lumiflora trainees. Years later, Maya, now a revered figure among both species, stood with Elder Xylo on a floating platform above a newly thriving whisperfish sanctuary. The ocean below them shimmered with renewed vitality, the currents vibrant, the crystal algae blooming. A small, custom-built quantum net, a miniature version of her original design, drifted gently through the water, observing the fish without ever attempting to capture them. It pulsed with a soft, harmonious light, a blend of Lumiflora luminescence and Maya's subtle, intuitive frequency. "They play within your fields now, Innovator Sharma," Elder Xylo resonated, his voice a soft hum of contentment. "No longer fearful, they have learned to trust the gentle hum." Maya smiled, a profound sense of peace settling over her. "And we've learned that the universe holds more than just logic, Elder Xylo. Sometimes, the uncatchable is caught not by force, but by understanding. And sometimes, the most unexpected allies are the ones who teach you the most." Xylos, a world once divided by prejudice and technological arrogance, had become a testament to the power of humility, adaptation, and the boundless potential of a truly shared future.